Welcome back to the podcast where we dive deep into statistics to challenge your biggest fears. Today, we're tackling two of the most sensationalized threats in American culture: child abduction and shark attacks. We are moving from the moral panic of the 1980s right into the data precision of 2023.
That's right. And if you think the world is getting scarier, the numbers might actually surprise you. Let's start with one of the most emotional topics, the idea of a missing child epidemic. In 1980, America was gripped by a national panic.
It was an era of chaos and misinformation. Think about it. The high-profile cases of Eton Patz in 1979 and Adam Walsh in 1981 were everywhere. And the media, lacking any centralized data, popularized a terrifying and completely false statistic: the claim that 1.5 million children disappeared or were abducted every year.
That number was total nonsense. It conflated everything: runaways, benign disappearances, and true abductions into one scary figure. The most visible result of this panic was the iconic but ultimately limited Milk Carton Kids campaign. This was a grassroots effort because there was simply no national infrastructure to handle these cases.
The moral panic, however, led to real change. The Missing Children's Act of 1982 allowed families to finally get their cases into the FBI's National Crime Information Center, or NCIC. And in 1984, Congress established the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC. These steps professionalized the response and, crucially, led to standardized definitions, marking the end of the data vacuum of the 80s.
Fast forward to 2023, and the data paints a very different, much more precise picture. The FBI's NCIC recorded 375,304 entries for missing juveniles under the age of 18. But when we look at the circumstances reported in those cases, the breakdown is shocking, especially compared to the stranger danger narrative of the past. 95.2% of coded cases were runaways. Only 0.9% were abducted by a non-custodial parent. The rarest category, abducted by stranger, accounted for just 0.1% of cases where a circumstance was specified, or 285 cases.
That's the monumental difference. We shifted from a terrifying lie, millions of abductions, to a statistical reality where true stranger abductions are exceedingly rare. And Speaker 2, while the Amber Alert system is a national treasure for recoveries, it has a paradox. Roughly 80% of Amber Alerts are issued for abductions by family or acquaintances, cases where the child is rarely at serious risk of harm. This overuse, ironically, risks a car alarm effect, where the public starts tuning out the alerts.
It's an example of how our emotional response doesn't always align with the data. And that brings us perfectly to our second topic, the risk of shark attacks. You mentioned the 72 million children in the US in 2023. If we use the actual total US population of roughly 335 million, the probability of a shark attack becomes statistically minute.
Absolutely minute. The International Shark Attack File, or ISAF, confirmed only 36 unprovoked shark attacks in the entire United States in 2023. If you apply that to the national population, the odds are about 1 in 9.3 million.
But let's be more specific. The national average is meaningless for someone on the coast. A better metric is the risk by exposure. Americans make an estimated 3.4 billion visits to U.S. beaches every year. When you put those 36 attacks against 3.4 billion beach visits, the odds of an attack are closer to 1 in 94 million visits. The risk is incredibly statistically low.
And that risk isn't even spread evenly. It's highly concentrated. Florida is the shark bite capital of the U.S., accounting for 44% of all 2023 incidents. And if you want to get granular, Volusia County, Florida, accounted for half of that state's cases. Location matters.
Activity matters as much as gent. The data shows that 42% of all incidents involved surfers or people engaged in board sports. It's not swimmers or waders getting the brunt of it. It's people on the surface who spend the most time in the water.
The final mind-bending fact is the comparison to other risks. Nationally, the threat of an unprovoked shark attack is so low that you are statistically far more likely to be killed by a lightning strike. In fact, the yearly risk of dying from a vending machine accident, yes, a vending machine tipping over, is about twice as high as the risk of being killed by a shark.
So the big takeaway today is that our primal fears are often wildly exaggerated compared to the statistical reality. The child abduction crisis of the 80s was a myth perpetuated by bad data, and the shark threat of today is largely confined to specific places and activities. You're statistically safe, both on land and in the water.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into fear versus fact.
Thanks to everyone listening to the MypronCast. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. Stay tuned for regular content about stuff and things.